Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello, me to introduce myself. My name is Melanie Dewi Puspita. I'm here. I want to storytelling about Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Once upon a time, in a very away palace, there lived a beautiful princess. She was very pretty, with blue eyes and long black hair. Her skin was smooth and white, so she was called Snow White. Snow White has a stepmother who was always jealous with her beauty. While her father has passed away, her stepmother was cruel. She had a magic mirror that could say who was the most beautiful woman in the country. One day, her stepmother asked the magic mirror that which woman was the most beautiful in the country. The magic mirror answered that Snow White was the most beautiful woman. Her stepmother was very angry when asked her servant to get rid of Snow White from this kingdom. The servant was asked to kill Snow White in the wood, but the servant did not do it. He just took Snow White into the wood and left her alone. But her stepmother did not know that Snow White was still alive. In the forest, Snow White was alone and scared. She did not know where she should go. Suddenly, she was a queen a little country. She wondered who lived there, and then she decided to get in the house. In the house, she saw 7 small beds and kitchen. Snow White cleaned up the house, such as washing clothes, cleaned the bed, and other after. After working so hard, she went to bed and slept there in the afternoon. The 7 dwarfs who lived in the contact went home. They were surprised to see there was a young woman there. One of them waked her up and asked who she was. Snow White told them her sad story. The 7 dwarfs felt pity on Snow White and they asked her to stay with them in the house. The palace then, stepmother asked the magic mirror once again who the most beautiful woman in the kingdom was. The magic mirror answered that Snow White was still alive and lived in a small house with the 7 dwarfs. She was still the most beautiful woman in the world. The stepmother was angry, and she planned something bad for Snow White. Then stepmother disguised herself as an old woman who sold poisoned apple and went to the dwarf's house. Before the 7 dwarfs went to work, they warned Snow White not to open the door and stranger. When her stepmother arrived to the house, they began offering Snow White apple. Snow White refused to open the door, but her stepmother forced her. Snow White felt sorry to her and opened the door. She took the apple from her mother and ate it. After eating the poisoned apple, she fainted and fell to the ground with the poisoned apple in her shade. In the evening when the 7 dwarfs come home, they were surprised to Snow White laying on the floor, with a pale face and a poisoned apple beside her. The 7 dwarfs were sad to Snow White which was dying, but she did not die. Then the 7 dwarfs decided to make a beautiful maid made of crystal to make Snow White still alive. Day by day, the 7 dwarfs were waiting for a miracle to come so that Snow White could get back from her faint. The one day, there was a traveler who was actually a prince of another kingdom. That was so far. He was a beautiful woman laid on a bed of crystal. The prince also asked what happened to the dwarfs. Then the dwarfs told him what had happened to Snow White. Hearing the story, the prince was so sad we was coming closer to Snow White. He felt sorry and kissed her. Suddenly, Snow White came to the curse was broken by the prince. Kiss. The prince kissed. The dwarf were so happy. Then the prince asked Snow White to come to his palace and marry her. Finally, they lived happily ever and after. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.